guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Noelle. Today is a Sydney Marathon training update. So I am shooting this on August the 18th. It's a Sunday and it is 4 Sundays, or actually the fourth Sunday, which is September 15, is going to be the Sydney Marathon, which I have been training for the past, basically since December when I signed up for this race. Yeah, it's been quite a journey because back in December, my longest runs were like 5 kilometers, and now I've just finished my 32-kilometer long run, and that is my longest long run for this training block, which means that I will slowly be winding down the distances and trying to recover so that I get to the starting line of the Sydney Marathon fresh. But that's jumping way ahead of what this update is about, and I was planning to talk about how I got here. So I started off training, I think, first week of January. It was really more of like kicking things off. So I ran 5K, and then I signed up for the 7-Eleven run, and that was 7K. I just wanted to see how my body would do over distances that were longer than 5 kilometers. And yeah, it really brought across the fact that I had a way to go. So to help me along in my training, I used the Garmin app, Garmin Connect. They have something called Garmin Coach, and you can train for distances from 5K all the way up to a half marathon. There are training plans there, I think from 3 different coaches, and I picked the half marathon training plan by Jeff Galloway. Now, Jeff Galloway is, he's well known for the run-walk method, in which he says that he's helped a lot of people run marathons successfully and finish strong. And that's because they'll run for a certain period and then take a walk break and then run again. When you average that out, it's still like the goal pace that they really want to go for, but it helps them maintain the speed for longer so that you keep running all the way until the finish line, or walking all the way to the finish line and achieve your goal time, finish time. I used that run-walk training plan to basically train for a half marathon. I signed up for the Manila Half Marathon, which happened in, I think it was in June. I have training brain right now, so it's kind of like all the dates are melting together. But yeah, those were my big checkpoints. So the 7K in February of this year, and then I did a 10K or 2 10Ks back to back, 2 weekends in a row, with women's run and all women's run. And that helped me like set a benchmark. This is my fastest 10K time at this point, which also helped me to set the sort of paces I would be training with in my half marathon and marathon blocks. So yeah, I was on the half marathon training plan between March and June. A feature of the Garmin Connect, Garmin Coach training plans is that it can adjust to how many weeks you have until the event. It can tell you if the goal time that you input is doable within the amount of time you have to train. And yeah, it's really quite flexible in that sense. So even if I didn't have a coach during that time, I was reasonably confident that I would be able to run my half marathon in the time that I wanted to run it. And I wanted to run it under 2 hours, which I did. So that was the next checkpoint, right? Now, knowing my half marathon pace, my 10K pace, I then took a look at the training plans that the Sydney Marathon released for all the runners to take a look at and follow for training. I think it was a really good idea to send these training plans out. I think they send it out every year, the same plan. But it's good to have that because you don't want people to come into your race unguided, unprepared. So basically you send them training plans. It's on the runner now to do their preps, but as the race organizer, you know that you've done your due diligence, you've covered your ass and all that. You've shown them through those training plans exactly what the marathon needs to be run successfully. Okay. Now there are 3 levels or 3 fitness levels. Anyway, there were 3 training plans that the Sydney Marathon released. One was the first timer plan, and then another one was the intermediate training plan, and then the advanced training plan. I'm not a marathon first timer, so I took a look at the intermediate and advanced training plans just to see what the difference was in the training approaches and, you know, the kinds of efforts that you need to complete these training plans successfully. And I kind of realized that I was sitting in the middle of the intermediate and advanced groups because I've trained for marathons before. Ideally, I should actually be doing the advanced training plan, but because it's been quite a long time since my last marathon, since my last long distance event, it would be good also to keep referring back to the intermediate plans, especially if I push too hard and get sick or whatever, or I miss a week and all that. So that's what I did. Throughout the 16-week training program, I took a look at both the intermediate and the advanced plans. I also took a look at like what my week would look like and chose which week or which plan I would follow that week. I know that's not ideal, but it's really more of like knowing your body and knowing yourself and what you can achieve. So yeah, that's what I did. So I was taking a look. I ended up following mostly the advanced marathon training plan, except for the weeks after strenuous activity. Like for instance, I hit a really long run. So the following week, I would take a look at what the advanced plan entails and the intermediate plan entailed. And it's like, if it's pretty similar, I would do the advanced plan. But if the advanced plan was a bit harder or much harder than the intermediate, if I needed a softer week, I would follow the intermediate plan. Yeah. And especially during this training block, I was riding a rail. In other words, like I was trying to balance training hard, but also being able to recover properly. And I'm no longer a spring chicken. When I did my first marathon, I was 27 years old. When I did my second marathon, I was still 27 years old. And my body's capability or ability to recover was, I miss that ability to recover. So, yeah, I'm a bit like more wary about how far I should push my body at this point. At my age, I'm not that old, but I would rather err on the side of doing a little less and being a little hilaw, undercooked, rather than doing too much and then spending 2 weeks trying to recover. And I actually had to do that during this training block because I did way too much. I ended up getting a cold, having to sit the first part of the week out, like no training whatsoever, and then just eased back into the rest of the week's training with softer runs and then the long run on the weekend. But that was also an easy long run. I bought a newer watch because my former watch was the Garmin Forerunner 945. Technically, it is on a higher tier to the 200 series because the 900 series is like a more premium edition. But because this is newer, it has more functions than my 945. So it still is like an upgrade of sorts, but an upgrade in terms of recovery, training readiness, which has come in handy during this particular time because the mileage has just in the last maybe 8 weeks, it has jumped in a sense because before these last 8 weeks, the long runs were reckoned in terms of time. And then they started getting reckoned in terms of kilometers because the plan wants to make sure that you're doing the appropriate mileage for the stage of the training plan that you're in so that you can take some confidence and time on feet with you going into the marathon proper. Having my new Garmin helped me not just keep track of my training because it's the same screens that I used in the 945. It's the same metrics that I used like heart rate, speed or pace, distance, that sort of thing. It's the same. But what makes the 265 different from the 945 is that there are more advanced metrics when it comes to recovery. Things like heart rate variability, training readiness, a score that watch computes so that in the morning when you wake up, you have more of a benchmark if you're ready to train or if you can train to the intensity that the workout or training session requires or if you need to put it back up. So yeah, during this time where I needed to really push my body, this Garmin Forerunner 265 helped me pull back a little when I needed to. And that has saved me from getting intensely sick and setting back my training. So I have been able to complete my training because of this watch. Thank you, Lord. So with just 4 weeks to go, I've done my longest long run, which is 32 kilometers. For my first marathon, when my friends were helping me train for it, we did 35. And even going into the marathon, I felt like I was a little overdone. It also triggered my first bout of plantar fasciitis, which was on my right foot. So yeah, 4 weeks before my first marathon, I actually bought a new pair of shoes because I thought that a new pair of shoes would help with plantar fasciitis. But also I pulled way back on the training mileage and intensity. And I still made it to the starting line. I used the original shoes that I had. I qualified for the Milo Marathon finals later that year. So I learned my lesson. By the time the second marathon of the year rolled around, the Milo Marathon final, I kind of understood more what running a marathon would require from my body. And just at that point, there was also a race that was scheduled suitably for the Milo Marathon finals. So let's just backtrack. Back in 2010, during the year I ran my first 2 marathons, the Milo Marathon eliminations in Manila was held exactly on my birthday. So I decided to run my first marathon there with a sub goal to achieve a qualifying time to the Milo Marathon finals, which was happening in December that same year. So there was a 32K that was happening like 4 weeks before the Milo Marathon final. 4 weeks was a long enough time to recover from a race pace 32K so that by the time I did my marathon, I actually kept to the pace that I wanted and I achieved the sub goal that I had then, which was to break 4 hours in a marathon in the Philippines. Granted, it was quite cool because the race was a December race. But aside from some really dedicated marathon runners, not a lot of recreational runners broke 4 hours. Recreational female runners broke 4 hours back then. I think now, because there are more people becoming more serious about marathon running, there are faster women doing the marathons. So I was definitely not groundbreaking back then, but that time goal was it was a stretch goal, but I achieved that. So yeah, I'm basically just trying to follow in the steps of my previous marathon training, but understanding that you can never step in the same river twice. You're different, the river is different. I'm older, the race that I'm going to is different. So yeah, I'm just trying to make sure that anything that I can still control, I can control. And what I can control is how I train and how I recover. In Australia, people do not normally have bidets in the toilets, and they don't even have dippers, tabos in the bathrooms. Now, if you know, if you're a serious runner, you know that being able to go to the toilet properly before a race is super important. And that's why, yeah, I bought this collapsible tabo just for my own comfort. Another thing about running the marathon in a place that's not quite the same weather as us is that you can get really cold while you're waiting for your gun start. So here in the Philippines, you don't really get cold while you're in the starting corral. You'll be sweating, so it's warm. You don't really need a long warm-up. The marathon at the tail end of an Ironman, you're actually really warm from the swim and the bike, so you don't really need to cover up or anything like that. And of course, in Phuket, same weather as here. It's humid, it's hot. But in marathons, especially the ones that are trying to gain world major status or the world majors themselves, you can be freezing in your starting corral. And I looked at the temperature forecasts for Sydney, and it's definitely not the kind of temperatures that I'm used to. So I can't raw dog it at the starting line and just show up in what I'm planning to wear for the entire marathon. No. I'm gonna have to cover up with something to keep me warm against any wind chill or that sort of thing. But the thing with the Sydney Marathon is that they don't actually have race day gear check. So you have to check your gear in when you pick up your race packet. This is post-race gear. So the stuff that you want to change back into when you finish the race, you have to check it in at the Marathon Expo, which is like the day or 2 days before the race. So on the race day itself, if you're planning to wear an outer layer, you're going to have to ditch it and say goodbye to it. And I didn't want to do that with my old stuff, any of my run stuff. No way. I'm sentimental and I want to hold on to those things, and they're good quality things too. So what I did, and what many other people always do before these destination marathons, is they buy a throwaway jacket. This is a windbreaker that I bought from Carousel. So it's a second-hand windbreaker. And the cost of this, including shipping, was only 190 pesos. So it's under $4 USD. It's super cheap, and it's not that attractive. It looks like it went through a bleach cycle, so it's the colors aren't that vibrant, which means that I am not particularly attached to how it looks. So I am not, I'm not going to regret taking this off and then, just leaving it. I don't want to say bad things about this jacket because I know that it's going to serve me well on race day. But yeah, I won't have any regrets leaving this behind. And the thing is, a lot of these throwaway jackets, the throwaway gear, they get picked up and they get resold anyway. And having gone thrifting in Australia, the lowest priced items are 15 Australian dollars. So to go from 4 USD, which is, what is that? 6 AUD, to being priced at 15 AUD in case this gets resold in Australia, it's a glow up for this jacket. And I've also been testing the kind of gear that I want to wear for the race. Normally, in Philippine races, I don't wear long sleeves because it's just not cool enough. But I have been testing like short sleeves and long sleeve shirts and just seeing which ones are comfortable, don't shave, that sort of thing. I'm still working on one more shirt that I need to test. But yeah, hopefully the gear that I end up with racing in is going to keep me comfortable all the way to the finish line. Anyway, that wraps up this long and meandering training update. I hope it kind of helps you understand the kind of preps I've been doing leading into my Sydney Marathon. And if you're thinking about doing a marathon or if you're already training for one, it might give you some ideas about what else you need to think of in terms of preparing yourself for your goal race. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. If you haven't yet, please subscribe. And I'll see you again next time. Bye!